Under the dim Chicago sky, on January 29, 2019, Jussie Smollett walked alone through the cold, his breath rising in pale clouds as if the night itself held its breath with him. Snow dusted the sidewalk, streetlights flickered like failing nerves, and then shadows moved. Two masked men emerged, voices sharp and venomous, slurs slicing the silence like blades. Hands grabbed him, a rope looped around his neck, a chemical burned into his skin, and the phrase "This is MAGA country" echoed into the frozen air before the attackers disappeared as abruptly as they came. The world woke stunned and sympathetic. Headlines blazed with outrage. Celebrities spoke his name with trembling fury, and for a moment, it seemed like America stood at his side. But detectives, cameras, and timelines began to twist into something darker. Surveillance footage appeared. Two brothers, a store. Masks, rope, bleach, a check for $3,500. Police knocks at doors, evidence pulled from closets, and suddenly the heroic victim was no longer simply seen as one. Allegations gathered like storm clouds. Authorities claimed the attack was staged, orchestrated, planned for publicity, the kind of twist no one wanted to believe, but everyone watched unfold. Courtrooms filled, flashbulbs popped, prosecutors painted motives and deceit, while Jussie insisted, through steady voice and steel-set jaw, that none of it was false, none of it fabricated, none of it staged. Still, the verdict fell. Guilty on 5 of 6 counts, echoing like a gavel strike heard across the entire country. Jail time, probation, fines, headlines turned cold, support fractured. Society debated guilt versus belief, victimhood versus performance, truth versus perception. Years passed, arguments continued, and then the final twist struck like a closing scene no writer could have crafted better. In 2024, the conviction was overturned, not because his innocence was proven, but because legal process had been broken and law demanded correction even when the story beneath remained tangled in shadows. A guilty ruling undone, a narrative unresolved, a nation still unsure what to believe, no clean ending, no perfect truth. Just a tale where fame, fear, race, politics, and performance collided under one winter sky, leaving only echoes, controversy, and a question that still lingers like frost in the air. Was it crime or illusion? Chicago did not forget. The city moved, but its heartbeat still carried that night like a bruise beneath the skin, tender, unresolved, pulsing with unanswered questions. Reporters chased every whisper, every appeal filing, every news statement from attorneys who spoke like chess masters, words tight and strategic. Social media became courtroom number 2, people choosing sides like jurors sworn to opinions they could never abandon. Some swore Jussie was wronged, others swore he wronged everyone, and the truth hung between them like fog with no wind to clear it. Behind closed doors, prosecutors reviewed tapes again and again. The brothers recounted their version of events, rehearsal, planning, coordination. They described the route, the props, even dialogue. Yet Jussie maintained his version with unbroken conviction, as if reality itself could bend beneath belief. His team prepared motions, while news anchors analyzed every frame of footage, every text, every check, every breath taken. The night police knocked on his door. Something in the story felt unfinished, like pages missing from the middle of a book. Then came 2024, the year everything cracked open again. Appeals argued not on truth, but on process, legality, constitutional rights. A panel of judges sat like statues, while attorneys clashed with precision, their voices rising and falling like dueling orchestras. And in the end, the court overturned his conviction, not declaring him innocent, not condemning him guilty, simply rewriting the rules of the board and forcing all pieces back into uncertain play. Smollett walked free, but the world he returned to was no longer one he recognized. Some cheered, others seethed. The brothers vanished from headlines like ghosts retreating into alleyways. Yet investigators quietly reopened threads they never fully tied. Detectives whispering about missing details, about evidence that didn't align perfectly, about contradictions buried in testimony like landmines waiting to detonate. One lead, just one, surfaced in an evidence archive untouched for years. A message time-stamped before the alleged attack, addressed to someone not yet named publicly. A device that hadn't been analyzed. A missing witness no one ever questioned. Something that could change everything if it proved real. Officials debated in silence. Lawyers prepared for war. And somewhere in the city, someone who hadn't spoken once was finally ready to. Because the case wasn't over. It was waking back up. The evidence vault was silent except for the low hum of fluorescent lights, the kind that made shadows feel sharper. A single box sat on the steel table, unopened since 2019. Its label faded, nearly forgotten beneath years of political noise and legal back and forth. An assistant investigator sliced the seal, expecting routine paperwork. Instead, they found something else. A phone. Cracked, powered off, logged under a witness who had never been interviewed. Someone who vanished from public knowledge before the story exploded into global headlines. The device was old, stubborn, locked behind multiple passcodes. But when digital forensic specialists finally breathed life back into it, notifications shimmered across the screen like sparks catching dry wood. Texts, calls, screenshots, a thread of communication that, if interpreted one way, hinted at planning, familiarity, rehearsed timing. Interpreted another way, it suggested fear, warnings, danger Jussie might have walked into unknowingly. The truth wasn't clear, just sharp enough to cut. Attorneys scrambled. Prosecutors whispered about reopening angles long abandoned. Jussie's team demanded the material be withheld, arguing misinterpretation could ignite another media firestorm. The press began to sniff around again, headlines forming like thunderheads even before any facts were released. And online, theories multiplied, some painting Smollett as architect, others as pawn, in a game bigger than any one actor. Then came the untraceable email. No sender name, no IP, just one message. I know what really happened that night. You all missed something. Meet me, and I'll prove it. Attached was a location, an unlit industrial strip near the river, scheduled for demolition within weeks. Police debated whether to respond or ignore what could easily be a hoax, a trap, or an obsessed spectator chasing relevance. But detectives driven by curiosity and pressure chose engagement. Plainclothes officers were sent to wait, unnoticed, engines cold, radios quiet. Midnight came, no footsteps, no figure, just wind scraping across metal siding like bone on steel. They almost left, until a silhouette appeared at the far end of the lot, walking slow, deliberate, hands visible, face hidden beneath a hood. Every officer leaned forward, adrenaline tightening their ribs. The figure stepped into a strip of dim light, then stopped. "I was there," they said. "Not the way you think." No one breathed, no one blinked. Because if this person was telling the truth, everything the world thought it knew, from attack to trial to overturned conviction, might be wrong, incomplete, or something far more twisted. The hood stayed up for several heartbeats, as if the stranger was testing the weight of silence, seeing who would flinch first. A single street lamp buzzed overhead, casting a watery circle of light across cracked pavement. Then, with a slow, trembling hand, the figure lowered the hood. Not one of the brothers, not a detective, not a familiar face from the media frenzy. A woman, mid-30s, eyes alert and terrified in the same breath. "My name doesn't matter yet," she said, voice steady but carved from exhaustion. "But I knew Jussie before any of this. I tried to warn him." One detective stepped forward, cautious. "Warn him about what?" She hesitated, words fighting their way out like they'd been trapped for years. She spoke of conversations overheard in private corners of industry circles, people who wanted attention shifted, narratives pushed, flames stoked. She claimed Jussie wasn't the mastermind, but the target, someone whose vulnerability could be leveraged for publicity, chaos, or both. She described late-night phone calls, anonymous messages warning that if he didn't play along, things would get dangerous. But then her story warped. She admitted she'd seen the brothers days before the incident, arguing, nervous, rehearsing something. She claimed they were pressured too. "It wasn't his idea," she whispered. "At least, not entirely." Officers exchanged glances. Evidence now contradicted itself more viciously than ever. If she was telling the truth, then somewhere behind the already tangled narrative stood someone else, someone with motive, influence, reach. The woman reached into her coat slowly, hands open, revealing no weapon, just a single photograph, creased and yellowed. A captured frame of a man shaking hands with one of the brothers in a parking garage weeks before the attack. Not Jussie, not anyone publicly connected. A face no one recognized. "Find him," she said, "and you'll understand why this never made sense." A detective tried to question her further, but her eyes darted over their shoulders, fear blooming fast. Tires screeched at the edge of the lot. A dark car, headlights dead, engine growling. Before officers reacted, the woman stepped back, breath quickening, voice cracking one last time. "He's still watching. They all are." The vehicle door swung open. She turned and ran. Officers rushed forward, but the car peeled away, swallowing her in darkness. She was gone. Only the photograph remained, trembling in the detective's hand like a live fuse waiting for flame. Because now there was a new suspect, someone invisible, powerful, unknown, and every answer uncovered only twisted the story further out of shape.